everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Well, hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I'm senior host of the show, and somewhere in the background is Pete Turner, my co-host. Pete, if you're in, pop in, say hi. There he is. And today, I'm really excited about doing this interview today. Phyllis Karas is with us. She has someone that has instructed and taught journalism for 25 years? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
That's amazing. And she herself is an author of 14 books or 16. What?
I think I've lost count, somewhere around there. I think 14.
Yeah,
maybe 15.
I've got 12 of them out there. I get it.
Okay,
Anyway,
it's more than enough.
and Pete, if you have her link for where people can get her books, if we could pop that up, please, that would be great. And anyway, what I love about journalists is when they seek stories, they always seek a basis of truth within the story that they seek. This is doing the biography of the material that they're handling. And it is so important because there are so many unspoken stories that need to be released to the world, that the world can know that this is history, and history should never vanish. It should never leave us. And I think that's a motivating factor for journalists such as yourself, especially an instructor and a teacher of journalism, because you're putting forth people out there that will be trained to acquire, assimilate, and collect historical information and put it into a form that we can preserve it and keep it. And that being said, Phyllis, I want to introduce you at this time and let you share your journey with us, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here. My journey in this particular book, Curse of the Blumenthals, was a personal story. I mean, as a journalist, I've been telling other people's stories for many years, but this was finally when I knew it was time to put the light on myself and my family and come up with a story that we had that was made us special, made us in many ways infamous, but was our story. And hopefully from our story and researching it and finding out all the depths of it, other people can possibly think about their own story and that they may have had crises in their own lives, but there are ways to overcome them. There may be a curse, as I believed for the curse of the Blumenthals, but there are ways out, and a love and strength and the ability to try to find the truth were certainly the avenues that I sought.
Exactly. When you hit that word truth, that's the one that imprinted on me. As you know, I too am an author. I've written 12 books. And what I've done is, from my criminal earlier years of life, I wanted to document the information to show that a person could truly move from sin to redemption. And your statement that you just made there about the Blumenthal cases is almost, it aligns perfectly with our motivations behind both of us for what we were constructively creating, to preserve that information for not only a humanitarian basis, but to show as evidence that we can change from something so drastic and something so horrifying and so horrible, if you will, to something that can turn into an instrument of teaching, an instrument of healing and reconstruction of life. And getting on with that, I want to hear more about the Blumenthal thing. I was briefed on that by Pete, and I'm really, really interested in that.
Yeah. Well, basically, it is the story of the Blumenthal family, my relatives. My mother was a Blumenthal.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and my family, especially my mother, kind of divided her whole life into two different aspects. One was the accident, and the second was the incident. The accident was a terrible automobile crash where six members of my Blumenthal family, including 3 under the age of 12, were killed by a drunken driver. And
Yeah.
that happened in 1936, and that was how my mother judged everything, things that happened before the accident or after the accident. Of course, I was not alive then, but I spent so much time, and I'm so glad I was able to do it, researching the accident. I knew about it, but I didn't know all the details. I never knew who the driver was. I never knew exactly where it occurred. There were so many details that I hadn't heard because it was a horrible, horrible scene. And
Yeah.
I think, like most families, you want to kind of cover the ugliness and just say, okay, it happened, but we survived. But that just wasn't enough for me. I wanted to find out more. There were 6 relatives, including 3 children.
My
How
God.
did this happen? How did this accident happen? Where were these people? Where were they going? Where was the driver of the car going? And that was such an important fact for me to write this book. The second part was what my mother always called the incident, she sterilized that. It's really the murder. And while there was tremendous publicity about the accident, photos of the 6 people who died in the accident happened outside Providence, Rhode Island, en route from Connecticut to Providence, where my relatives lived. So that was a horrible scene that was covered in newspapers very sympathetically, although at the time there was a great deal of anti-Semitism going on. So I think there was more sympathy for the driver of the car than there was for the 6 Jewish relatives that were in the car. But that was such an event, and I certainly wanted to research that and find out how true that really was. That was in 1936, right after the accident, about 4.5 months later. An aunt of mine, who obviously was not in the accident, one of my mother's brother's wives, had a child who was born right after the accident, maybe, I think, just almost 5 months after the accident. His name was Ronnie Blumenthal. He was named for the driver of the car, who obviously died, my Uncle Ruby. And when Ronnie was born, there was so much joy. We just finished burying 6 bodies, 6 Blumenthals. The heartache was going to last forever. But when this beautiful baby boy was born, it was almost like a phoenix rising out of the fire. It was a beautiful, wonderful thing, and everybody adored this one child. There were many Blumenthal children, but Ronnie was so special because
I love that.
He was just adored. However, at age 18, everything changed. This beautiful, handsome boy, senior in high school, committed a hideous murder. So the headlines, which were once about the poor Blumenthal family, was about this teenage boy who would turn into a murderer. How could this be? How could this happen to a family? This was at the time when Old Smokey was still alive and the death penalty was still there. And this was an 18-year-old kid that could easily have gotten the electric chair. Yeah. So the division of these 2 incidents, the accident and the incident called the murder, really formed my whole life. And I, as a researcher, I really wanted to know all the details. And I think you will agree that every family has secrets. Not everybody tells every story. Unraveling this, and my cousins, who are all participants in this whole research and my whole life, the word cousin is very special to me. I have many cousins. Luckily, the Blumenthals are a large family, and each one is very precious to me. So I wanted the story to be for them. I wanted the truth out. I wanted them to see, yes, we had been cursed. There had been a hideous car accident and an even equally hideous murder that involved the whole family. And yet, did we survive all this? Is there hope after a curse? And I truly believe that there is. And that was the purpose of my writing the story, Curse of the Blumenthals.
You know, it's really fascinating to listen to you right now, sharing that and feeling the conveyance of your emotion. And you being a journalist instructor and a journalist yourself, as I'm listening to you sharing this, I'm watching and visualizing the story unfolding right in front of me. I mean, you are truly gifted. I've interviewed a couple of journalists that have written books, but you literally grabbed me just now.
When you've been a professor for 25 years, you have to talk to people and get their attention. Otherwise, they're going to be sleeping at their desks.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly have that. And
thank you.
I want to hear more on the creation, not just the motivation. I already know what that is with you with regard to writing and locking in this history, but the creation of the story in itself, having to go over material with family members and people that are still in some ways emotionally attached to the incident. And that must have been pretty difficult at times to do that kind of writing.
It was, but the truth was I wasn't ready to write this book for many years. It was only after my cousin Ronnie, who committed the horrible murder, died, that I felt it was time. I just couldn't write it while he was alive. And of course, these incidents happened so many years ago, and trying to get the research from an accident that happened in 1936 was not easy. And you know, things are easier now. AI could have helped me a heck of a lot more than it did then. But luckily, I found librarians, I found researchers, I found people at newspapers. I had a lot of help, and I'm so grateful to everyone that offered me, you know, information that I could never have found on my own. And yet, each particular newspaper article that I would read, many of them just broke my heart. I was reliving it. I was reliving the accident. My mother always relived the accident. I would be driving in the car with her, and I would be driving, and her right foot was always ready to go on the brake. It was, I think we call that maybe generational trauma. Not quite sure of the word, but I think we all felt I do. And I think that, discovering all those stories and learning about the six people, especially the three children, and exactly how they died and where they died, the exact spot. I wanted to know where
Wow.
on the highway that accident happened in
Wow.
1936, and I found it. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm not going to say that I guess there was pleasure in knowing that this was my family and this was my gift. But
Was
there
there
was a lot.
closure?
I do believe there was. I
Okay.
think,
Yeah.
I really believe that the curse of the Blumenthals is over and that there was closure and truth.
Yeah.
If you find truth, often you can find closure.
Yeah, absolutely right. As you know, I'm a certified hospice chaplain. I've been
Yes.
doing that work for
So
26 years
respect
now.
that.
And I love being with those that are in latent stage. And I also love being
Yeah.
there after they pass to be with the grieving friends and family members that need
Mm.
to continue on with acceptance. And so much is learned. But one thing I want to share with you as author to author, Phyllis, when I
Yes.
was completing my seminary years and started getting my note taking and writings of things while I was in federal prison, as a
Mm.
prisoner, as a trained hospice counselor, aiding fellow prisoners through the dying process, it came upon me during that time of doing my seminary studies and everything in those death rooms that there was history here that needed to be shared to show others the pathway out, if you will, through a
Mm.
compassionate and humanitarian way. And a lot of
Yes.
people that knew I spent 15 years of my life in the Sinaloa drug cartel and in that
Mm.
world, a very, very horrifying world. I'm not going to go
Mm.
into it today, but yeah, I've been there and done that. And like I was
Mm.
telling you about the man that was sent to kill me when I came out of
Yes.
consciousness. And I realized the first thing I did was forgive him instantly, of course,
Mm.
and share an understanding because I know what it's like to be handed a piece of paper with someone's name and address on it.
Ah.
That was part of the world we all came up in.
Mm.
So I know how I felt in my younger years going through that side of lawlessness, if you will, and no
Yes.
compassion whatsoever for humanity, for humankind, just
Mm.
completely consumed in greed, power, and the desire to stay strong so I could survive the world that I was in. But
Ah.
a very strange thing happened to me. I was just been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison because I had done so much work for the Department of Justice to disassemble the cartel's
Mhm.
activity in the Pacific Northwest instead of getting a mandatory life sentence, which is where I started out. I got it all the way down to 8.
Right.
And I
Wow.
remember being taken to a holding cell, getting ready to catch a Con Air flight to a prison back in the Midwest, and I remembered that the day before my wife told me she was divorcing me. I had a contract out on my life. I was heading into federal
Ah.
prison for 8 years, and my baby daughter was just born, not even 2 months ago.
Ah.
So my entire world shattered. And I remember hitting that cell, Phyllis, and I dropped to my
Mm.
knees, and I literally couldn't take any more in that moment.
Oh,
And I
how
looked up
could you?
and yeah, and I looked up and I said, God, if you are real, please, please come into my life and recover me. In that moment, Phyllis, my door to my cell was open and an inmate walked in, dropped down on his knees to one side of me. He put a hand on my shoulder and started praying. Within seconds, another inmate came in on the other side of me, dropped down, and this was October 19th, 1994 at 3:30 in the afternoon. And in that moment, I had realized the way, the truth, and the life of Jesus Christ. The bonds shattered, all the anger, all the fear, all of the hatred, everything washed away instantaneously. And it was like reliving Paul's second epistle to the Corinthians in the 5th chapter, where he says, once you receive Jesus, you become a new creation. You're born again.
Mm.
And I felt it, and it really, truly happened to me. And since that moment, over 30 years ago, every day of my life, I wake up in an unspeakable joy. When I came out of that coma, when I was in Providence Hospital, I woke up and came out of it in joy. No fear, no dread, nothing. And this to
Mm.
me was good, and the forgiveness of the man that was sent to kill me. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So no one
Obvious.
can tell me, yeah, no one can tell me that you cannot change your life. If you were a wicked and an evil person and you were in
Mm.
that world for many, many years, like I was, that in an instant a transformation occurrence can happen. And then what happens? You get a desire to show compassion to the world. You get a desire never to judge another human again under any
Mm.
circumstances, and even more so a desire to learn about this new person that you've just come into. And
Mm.
I remember when I got selected to become one of the only been 11 hospice counselors that were federal prisoners at the time
Mm.
that I came into it. And I remember how God just put all these opportunities in my path and started collecting notes and stories and stuff that I could eventually put into a written form and create maybe a book. Who would know that a dozen years later, I've got 12 books out there, and they're
Wow.
absolutely, they're amazing. And I can't wait for you to read them. And I would
And
really love your
I
opinion.
so sympathize with your prison experiences because my cousin Ronnie went to
Yes.
prison at age 18 and came out at
Wow.
33. And there was no one to help him when he came out. He could have used someone like you. He could have used someone that
Yes.
could try. What do you go? How do you come out at
Yeah.
age 33, having spent all those years with hardened criminals, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you're in the real world? And are you supposed to just become perfect? No. And he wasn't perfect. He drove to in prison. He was perfect. He did books
Yeah.
for the blind. He was kind. The family stayed with him completely
Oh,
because,
that's
as my
wonderful.
mother had said, when you lose 6 members of your family, you're not going to lose another one no
Yeah.
matter what. So we were there for him, and I went to the prison and we visited with him, and we loved him dearly. And this is so weird, but he was beautiful in prison. He was handsome. He was in good shape. He was kind. He wanted to hear all our stories. And then suddenly, when the door came open and he was 33, it's like, wow, what do I do now? So he drove too fast. He drank too fast. He had too many women. He tried to make up for everything. And as a result, his life after prison was nothing like yours was. Yours was the
Yeah.
complete opposite of whatever happened to him. And for that,
Well,
I
you know,
regret.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I love that you brought that out in our conversation. I have personally testified on behalf of two inmates in the last decade that were coming out of prison, and I'm a doctor. My doctorate's in pastoral counseling, and a lot of those seminarial studies were completed while I was in federal prison. But the reason that I was called to testify is because I had prior history with both of these men. And I remember the jurors asking me a question one time. Well, if you're this counselor and you're this Christian and you do all these wonderful things, why haven't you been involved in counseling him before he hits the stage of whether or not we're going to release this man?
Right.
And I would explain to
Yes.
them, because the way that he's being counseled and the therapy that's ongoing in the prison would be completely different in accordance to the way that I would approach treating and counseling him as he's preparing for separation from prison life and coming back into the real world. And they understood it. And I was so proud of them for that. And on both occasions where I testified in court for people, they got released. And to this day, I'm still in frequent touch with both of them, and they're doing great because they know someone's been in prison. They know someone's been through the foundation of that whole coming out and that paranoia and that fear you feel in the overwhelming moments and trying to catch up with all the life you missed when you said that.
Exactly.
I can relate to that.
But just what Ronnie did. He was 33, but he was really 18. And here I am. And let me work as hard as I can, make as much money as I can, drive as fast, and do it all. But he was missing
how's he doing
something.
today? How is he today?
Well, I would not write the book until he died. I just could not.
Oh, that's right.
Because I have to tell you that it wasn't good. It just the family stood with him. We traveled with him. We loved him, but it was as if he just couldn't quite make up for what he lost. And
Sadly,
while we had unbelievable burials for the 6 people that died in the accident, my poor cousin Ronnie ended up being buried in a pauper's grave because we totally lost him. And it is one of the greatest, saddest moments that while everyone was together with him while he was in prison and didn't want to let go for one moment, once he came out, we couldn't grab him. We just couldn't. And believe me, there were many, many attempts. And that's one of the saddest parts of the book. And that was very hard for me to write.
I'm so glad that you wrote it, though, because there are so many people that are dealing with that exact same dilemma that you and your family were confronted with. Because, the love never stops for family members.
No matter what. It doesn't.
No matter what. But you know what does come along? A conflict develops within us that survive people such as that, because we want them to have good life and quality of life and to take benefit from their experiences that can further enhance life and compassion and benefit for other people. And in his case, sadly, and I've seen others like that, of course, they come out and they're playing catch up. They're playing catch up, and that game doesn't exist. What you do when you're in prison, like I did, is you get into studies, you reform yourself so you can prepare before you exit that. And with me, I'll share this with you, Phyllis. I was in Leavenworth Federal Prison. This is after I left Springfield and left the counseling. I went to prison to do my last year. And one day I get called up to the warden's office, and there's two State Department officials standing there, and they're saying, Mr. Bradley, how would you like to come to work for the Department of Justice? We'll walk you out of prison. We'll walk you out of prison right now. And I took 24 hours to think on it. I accepted it. And Phyllis, I spent 17 years undercover. I walked out of prison right after that offer, went before a judge, and here I am down buying 500 kilos of cocaine in a whorehouse in Costa Rica, not a month later, and I'm on parole. And I'm doing massive drug deals in foreign countries, and I'm inserting agents into organizations because I had earned that in the 19 months before I went to prison, where I had operated undercover. I was in multiple foreign countries, and I was down there when they killed Don Pablo Escobar, who was a supplier of ours.
Of course, yeah.
I was undercover in Acapulco the day that he was executed on that rooftop, and I remember.
God.
I was working with the joint CIA DEA team. They were up in the hills.
This is a movie. This is not a story. This is a movie. I can't even keep up with it.
And I have it all documented, my friend. But
I am sure you have. I'm sure you have.
I knew something early on in my life that I was different, because when my friends were riding their banana seat handlebar Schwinn bicycles back in the 1960s, I was riding on the back of a burro in central Mexico along the opium fields, the poppy fields. That was my
God.
That's my 10th grade in high school. So, but I knew it was different. I saw my first execution when I was 15. I watched a guy get shot right in the head, not 5 feet from me. And I remember being taken out of the cafeteria, and the guy that was my personal bodyguard there protecting me, he told me, whatever you see and whatever you experience while you're down here, don't ever tell anybody. And up until 6 years ago, I never told anybody about it.
Wow.
Never. I never did. But now, I'm 71 going on 72 years old. What the hell can they do to me now?
They've done it all. You've done
it all. They've done it all, my friend.
I know, and I'm listening to your story and this amazing redemption. But I do must say about my cousin Ronnie, even though we lost him, we did. Yes. There's just no question. He left us something beautiful. He left us a son. His son Mark, who Mark was never really much of a father. He was his father, divorced the wife, really was never in his life. As a matter of fact, Mark only called him Ron, never called him Dad. But Mark is one of those beautiful people in life, just a sensitive, he's 50 years old, married, not going to have any children, not going to spread it beyond. And he just is everything his father is not. He doesn't drive, he doesn't drink. He works hard. He's warm. He's compassionate. It's like you think, how could this be? How could something, but these things happen. People change. Ronnie didn't change, but he left us a beautiful person. And for that, I'm enormously grateful, as is the whole family. He's our Blumenthal, and we still have him.
And that ends the curse on the family. Look at something,
it does.
God created something wonderful and beautiful. And I just love to I hear it in your voice. I mean,
that's exactly what I want to say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And I tell you something, Phyllis, I also want to commend you for 25 years of teaching journalism. That's not a small feat. And what you've released out in the world is so beneficial because
it's changed. It's changed so much today. There were
huge
AI? Standards. Oh yeah. I mean, I never had to worry. I thought maybe someone might plagiarize something, but the entire story could be written by another person and I'd have to judge that. I think I got out at the right time, although maybe I didn't, because this is when we need strong journalists more than ever before. People that are willing to work on their own and to get to the story and to tell the truth, because everything is the truth and you need to find it. It's not easy. It's often hidden, but it is.
Well, just to comfort you, I can assure you that of all 12 books that I wrote, I never used any AI, anything. I did my research. I dug through. Thank you. Because I agree with you. No, I agree with you. The story needs to be told, and the mistakes and the flaws that we make are just as important as the perfection in writing, because AI doesn't do that. AI is not real. It's generated from knowledge.
It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have a soul.
No, it does not. And to be quite frank with you, it scares the living Jesus out of me. It really does.
Believe me, as a journalist, I read everything and I keep thinking, is this AI? I'm so skeptical now that I really don't enjoy reading a story because I'm so concerned about its truth and veracity. But this is the world we live in, and we've got to come to terms with it and try to figure out how to deal with it. And
well, I think that a lot of other people that are like us that are authors that truly believe in the intention that we try to portray when we release material like that, there's so many of us that are just feeling the same way you and I do about AI. It rapes and robs and takes from the beauty of the flaws that we have as humans. And I love the flawed. I'm doing a marathon right now, rereading all of my books. I wrote them, I published them, and that was all well and good. But now I'm taking the time to go through them. And it's so cool because I'll see a grammatical error or I'll see some other small thing that I did.
That's good. That's okay.
Exactly. That's my point. And I smile and go, yep, this is human.
Yeah. I have yet to find the one human being who is not flawed. I mean, it's there. And you want to tell that story. And when the story is so perfect and I can't put a red mark on anything, then I'm saying, aha, something is wrong here. No one is that. No, you can use all the wonderful things that from your computer and to get spelling checks and all that things. But these stories, they have to have a heart. They have to have mistakes too. And that's
I intentionally wrote notes. I intentionally used books and looked up material like maps of areas that I was in when I was undercover or as an international smuggler. I did all of my homework because I wanted to be fresh and impactful to me creating it so my audience could enjoy it. And that's the critical point. And I know the AI stuff, you'll start reading something and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like you're connected to it. That's AI. You're not connected to it. And same with Hollywood right now. They're having a real controversy down in the Hollywood with the creation of AI coming into the movies and removing people and making them do things that we can all look at and see that is not a natural form of action or activity, so to speak.
Exactly.
And I've got two, like I told you, two motion picture creators, producers right now working on my story, and they have been.
Well, that doesn't surprise me one tiny bit. I mean, if there's a story that needs to be told, that's the one. And if you can't read it, then you might as well see it on film.
And both of them feel that exact same way. They feel how this is a story that shows goodness and
whether it's a documentary or a feature film or whatever.
They're talking 3 motion pictures and then up to 10 years of a TV series.
It's going to keep you very busy.
I hope so.
It's wonderful.
Well, listen, we're getting close to wrapping up here. My show's usually in a half hour or so, and I want to tell you, Phyllis, I'd like to stay in touch with you. Maybe
without question.
Yeah, we could keep a concept of maybe co-authoring something because I do
Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Well, you're what I've been looking for. For God's sake, you understand the significance of human frailty and where we are not perfect. We're not even close to perfect. And we shouldn't be perfect. We're supposed to evolve.
Exactly. And when you went into that prison cell that day, you were there for a reason. I mean, those people, they were just waiting and you were there. And obviously you've still been there and are there.
I absolutely love taking people through the most critical time of their life, which is the end of life, and helping them close the doors necessary to have that inner peace. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the mother of hospice. You're familiar with her.
Who isn't, of course.
Yeah. I actually wrote back and forth to her 30 years ago.
When I was,
she loved the fact I was in the prison environment doing that. And there was another lady, Barbara, I can't remember her last name, but she actually published books about afterlife and sent them to me and just absolutely adored the work we were doing in there. And what a neat experiment to take fellow prisoners and train them and teach them to have this type of compassion to take another dying prisoner through the process. And in prison, in prison, they don't have family visiting. They don't have friends visiting. They're in prison. They die alone. Now, but they don't anymore. People like myself that the government trained allowed us to be there and hold their hand to that final breath.
I'm so proud of our government for doing that.
Me too, because that was a big step. There security issues and everything else, but nonetheless, and then I go to Leavenworth, and one day I get a knock on my cell door, and I'm hauled upstairs, and they're saying, "How'd you like to walk out of prison and you become this contractor for the Department of Justice?" And the 17 years that I operated, some of the original agents, when I walked in that took me into custody that day at the U.S. Attorney's Office, were with me for 30 years of my life. It was amazing. And when they retired, one retired as the SAC at the Miami-Dade office, and he was U.S. Customs. And he was the one I was actually assigned to when I walked in that day. And after 30 years, and he said, Hal, I'm here at my retirement party. And he said, you should be standing here beside me because the work we did got him promoted. And I said, brother, don't you feel me? I am beside you right now. I'm there hugging you. And I love them both. And my books, some of them are dedicated to these special agents that have risked so much in their lives to make this country a better place. And how can you not be overwhelmed with knowing what they have put themselves on? And I've been kidnapped and tortured. I've been captured in a foreign country and rescued from captivity. I have gone through multiple life and facing death each day experiences. And I can still remember, like on my rescue mission, when me and Manny, we were put in separate helicopters when they came in, killed everybody in the camp, hauled us out of there, and got us on charge. And I was taken to a CIA. I was taken to a CIA hard site, a black site, and that's where I had medical attention. But I remember when I was on the helicopter, I was so physically traumatized and damaged. And I remember the nurse that was on that flight holding my hand and stroking my forehead and telling me, you know, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I was so shattered. I couldn't talk words. All I could do was cry. My body was crying. And it's hard to even talk about it today, but the point is,
it's important that you talk about it. It's important. Yeah.
It is.
And that you write about it, and then possibly people will get to see it on the big screen. It's important. It's a vitally important story. And there's just too few of them around. There just aren't. But I especially love what you did in the prisons. That to me is a godsend.
Yeah. I'll send you some stuff, Phyllis, because you deserve to see it. I'd love that. And well, listen, I want to thank you, and I want to say God bless you and your family. Your story on the Blumenthal story is amazing. Absolutely. I will grab a copy of that book. I'm definitely going to read it cover to cover.
Please do. I would love
to
I
will. And I just love that we had you on the show today. And
Phyllis, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
You too, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, you know, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.